Hey there everybody, this is Aardaerimus, and today we will be learning how to use Visual Basic 2010 to connect to a MySQL database, also commonly referred to as MySQL. This tutorial does assume that you already have a MySQL database installed and accessible by you, and that you already have data or have the ability to create data on that server that you can access. You'll also need the ability to set up users. So first thing you're going to need is to download the ADO.NET driver for MySQL, and once you've downloaded and installed this connector, which can be reached at mysql.com/products connector. I'll put a link on the video here, so you should be able to click on that. Anyway, once you've downloaded and installed that, it will then be accessible to Visual Basic. So we will go ahead and get started here. Now what I've created is a catalog called Tutorial, and I've created two basic tables. They're nothing fancy. Basically a users table as a master table and a characters or tunes table as a child table. And what we'll learn in this video is how to draw data that exists in both of these, and also we'll learn how to join the two together to pull that data out simultaneously with one connection. So first thing we will do is open up Visual Studio or Visual Basic and create a new project. Then we'll give that project a name. I'm just going to call it MySQL Test, or how about Tutorial. Windows Forms application is what we want. We'll just hit OK. And the next thing we need to do is click on Project, Add Reference, and if we've installed that ADO.NET connector for MySQL, it should be found in the .NET section in here. So we're going to look for MySQL and data. So just hit OK on that and select it, and go ahead and open your form code by double clicking on your form. And the first thing we'll do is imports MySQL.data and imports MySQL.data.MySQL client. Okay, now we're just going to create 4 object variables here. So the first one will be dim dbcon as, whoops, not alright, my SQL connection. So this is going to be our actual connection object, and then we'll do str query as a string, and I will just set that to blank string. That'll be the actual query that we hit the database with to return the data. So next up, I'm going to do SQL cmd, and this is going to be our MySQL command. So, and finally we're going to need a data reader, so I'm going to say dim dr as MySQL data reader. Okay, now we're ready to start coding this guy. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and jump over to our form. We're going to need some form of data output here, somewhere we can actually see the data coming out of our tables. So I'm going to just drop in a text box here. I can call it, let's see, I'll just name it txt data, and I'm going to make that multi-line. So I'm going to scroll down here, set multi-line to true, then we can make that bigger. Alright. Now we're just going to jump back over to our form code, and I'm going to create a new sub, private sub get db data. And what we'll do in here is a try-catch statement. That way, if our connection fails or our query fails for some reason, we'll actually be able to see why and be able to capture the error message. First step is to prepare connection and query. Okay. First thing we will do is establish our dbcon, our MySQL connection, with the connection string. And this is a very, very important step. So dbcon equals new MySQL connection, and we'll specify our connection string in the parameters. The first thing that we must have is the server name. This could be your server name or IP address, the actual host name of the machine. Definitely have to have this to be able to communicate with your server. It might be like localhost if the MySQL server is located on the machine that you're working on. Mine is remote, so I have to call that machine by name. It's on my Aardaerimus box. Next up, we have to tell it which database to connect to, and you have to have permissions with whatever user that you intend to use here. My database, as I showed you before, is tutorial. Not sure if these are case sensitive or not. I haven't checked that. Alright, next up, we have to have the user ID, so that's just UID, and this is going to equal tutor. That's the user that I set up, and the password. Okay, I know it's always a little scary using your passwords in text here. I'm just using a generic password, password1, and that's really all there is to the connection string. If you are working on a machine that has a SQL server, or I'm sorry, a MySQL and MySQL server running on a separate port than the default, then you will have to specify that after the server name. I'm just using all the server defaults, so keeps things pretty simple here. Alright, so once you've established your connection string, now we get to create our query to the database. I'm going to do str query equals, and now I will show you how to create that query here. MySQL uses pretty much standard SQL, structured query language. So we'll be able to do select, and then use the table name to identify the table I'm grabbing from my users table. Let me just bring these up here again so you can see my tables. I have data in the users and data in the tunes. I'm just going to start by selecting some data from the users. Now if I open this table up, whoops, that's the structure. In the structure you see I have a password field, name field, ID, email, join date, and website. So if you want to keep track of users or something, this would be a good way to do it. Let me see here. I want to edit table data. And now you can actually see the data that's in there. I've created 3 users, Aardaerimus, Jimbo, and Mika. So here's the password field, email address, join date, website. Of course this is all fake data, so don't get excited. Anyway, that's what we're going to be drawing from. So I'm going to just select data from the users table, and I'm going to select the name field. Each of these values will be separated by a comma, and users dot website. Actually, you know what? Let's do the email address. So let's just start with this. I like to kind of keep my SQL lines on separate lines, so I'm going to drop down, and now we have to specify where we're selecting from. Okay. Naturally, it's the users table, so that's pretty simple. Let's just go ahead and just test this very simple query here. Next step, what we have to do is take our SQL command, set it to equal a new MySQL command, and the command is going to launch the query, str query, on the connection string, on our command. I'm sorry, the connection. Alright, so we prepared our database connection, created a query for it, and now we're going to execute that query with this using the data reader. So next up, we are going to open the DB and kick off the query. Okay, so we're going to set dbcon to be open. Alright, so that tells it to open the connection. And then we're going to take our data reader and set it to equal, I keep doing that, SQL command cmd dot execute reader. Alright. Now, once this has executed, what we have to do is keep an eye on the state of our data reader. So we'll say while the data reader is reading, meaning it hasn't hit the end of the table, then we can do stuff. We can capture each record, each row and column, and basically output the data where we want to, which in this case is just going to be our text box. So what I'm going to do is set txt data dot text equals txt data dot text and data reader dot item. Okay, so we'll use the data reader's item object, and you can grab the items either by index or by the field name, and in this case we're using the name field and the email field. So what I can do is say item name, and let's put a little space in there. I'm just going to put 10 spaces, and dr item, and I'm going to use the email field next. And then what we'll do is we'll drop down to the next line, bbcrlf, and that should do it. Okay. So essentially what we'll be doing is capturing this, each record from our database, which is going to be name and email, dropping it in the text box here, and then dropping down a line. And as long as this is reading, it's going to just iterate through each record in the table, or whatever we've selected from our query specifically. It could be one record, could be all of them. Once we're done, okay, let's say we're done reading. Now it's very important, whoops, to close the database. You don't want to leave your connection open, otherwise that could hinder other people from accessing the data. If there are more than, if it's more than just you in the environment. So data reader.close, easy, and we also want to close dbcon. Okay, so we've closed out our thread here, and then we close the actual connection to the database. Now what we want to do is capture exceptions. So if there's an error, we'll do message box failure to communicate and VBCRLF, and drop it down one more line. VBCRLF, and then EX, the exception, dot message. Okay. That way it'll tell us what failed, if we messed up on our query or something. So that is really all there is to it, and hopefully this will work successfully when we run it. But before we try to do that, we should probably call it up here, get db data. Alright, so let's go ahead and just fire it up here and see what happens. Alrighty. So I have basically selected each record from that table. But what if I only wanted one person to be returned here? What if I just wanted to see the data for one user? Well, we'll just add a filter to our query. We'll come to our str query and say where name equals, we can't use double quotes again. We have to have a quote around our string, so we can use the single quotes inside of the double quotes. And say I just want Aardaerimus. Go ahead and run that, and now I just get that. I could do the same for Mika. And all we get is Mika. So let's go ahead and pull data from both tables by joining them together. So we have our user and we have their email address, but we want to know what tunes that user has in our system. So what I'm going to do is come up here, go to my last field name for users, and we're going to connect to the tunes table, and we're going to get the name of the tune, and we're also going to get the class of the tune. So we'll be able to tell who the tune is and what kind of tune it is. Now here's a little problem. We have two fields with the same name. Okay, they're both called name. This is going to cause problems. It's going to see it as, an ambiguous column name. So what we'll have to do is assign one of them an alias. I'm just going to come here and say as character name or char name, and that way it'll be, we'll see this field name instead of just name. Let's see here. Now we can't run this yet. We haven't told it how to pull from tunes, and we have to have something relational between these tables, and I'll show you what I mean here. Say I open up users. Okay, you can see the users, me, Jimbo, and Mika. But if we open the tunes, whoops, where'd you go there? What you'll see, whoops, edit table data. What you'll see is that there are numerous characters, and each of us has more than one. So my name is in here numerous times. Mika's here, Mika's also down here, and Jimbo's got 2 characters as well. So what we want to do is pull these out, and judging by the fact that these are jumbled up, we're going to have some sort of sorting as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Just going to close these out here, shrink them down. The first thing we have to do, though, is tell it how to join these two tables together so that the data from both tables lines up and matches properly. So what I'm going to do is say from users, and I'm going to do an inner join. An inner join essentially will return only the data where the two fields or where the two tables match. So wherever Aardaerimus is, any records that are tied to him will be pulled out. Wherever Mika is, any records tied to her will be pulled out. And that's how it will work. So I'm going to join tunes to users on a specific field, the field that should always match. So that's going to be users.name equals tunes.user. Okay? Because you saw that in the tunes table, the user field matches. So that's what we want to get our relationship between the two. Once we've done that, we should be ready to go, except we don't want this filter anymore. But one thing we do want is to sort it. So what I'm going to do is change that filter to order by users dot name, and you can sort that either ascending in alphabetical order or descending. Okay, either way it will work, but one of them will sort it backwards if you want to see the higher ones first. I'm going to just do a standard ascending sort by alphabetical order. So let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. Now you can see that we have multiple records for each character now. That is because we haven't actually, we're getting the data we want, as you can see, but we haven't told it to drop it into the text box. So what we need to do is come out here and grab a few more fields. And now that we've added these, those ones are available to this data reader. So we'll say and space, I'm just going to put a 5 in there, and let's see, dr.item, and I want my character name. So remember, we used an alias for the character name, so what we'll do is char name, use the alias down here. Now let's see what happens. So it's going to show all of our characters for all of the users sorted alphabetically. Now if you use like a grid or something, you can actually do data grouping so you don't get repeated values, because it basically iterates, creates these all as a single row. It iterates through all of them every time. If you wanted to add some logic so it didn't, reprint, you could do that. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Sort by tunes.name. Now notice how I'm using the actual field name as opposed to the alias. I don't think you can actually use this alias in your logic here, so just keep an eye on that. Down here you have to use it, up here you don't want to use it. So now you'll notice that the user name is all jumbled up, but the character names are in alphabetical order. So I just wanted to show you that. Next, you know, we could put our filter back in. I could say where users equals Mika. Run that. Oh, see what happened? Okay. Says unknown column users in where clause. Alright, now you see what I did there. I called the table name, but I didn't call the field name. So our exception is working exceptionally, and we got no response. So all I have to do is say users.name and then run it, and look who's there. It's just Mika and her characters. So anyway, you know, that's really all there is to it. That's not a whole lot of code for connecting and pulling data out of a database. Pretty nice stuff. You know, you can get pretty complex with this. You can do all kinds of different types of joins. There's inner joins, left joins, right joins, outer joins, and things like that, and they all do different things. They all pull the data differently. Like, say I had users in here in my database, but certain users didn't have any characters, but I wanted to pull them anyway. See, if I had users in here and they didn't have any characters and I was using an inner join, that will mean that it will only pull the ones that do have characters in this field, okay? Because it's using this as sort of a filter. What I would do instead is use a left join to pull any users that didn't have characters as well as the ones that did. So I would pull everything from the left table and only matches from the right. So there's all sorts of little tricks you can do there. Familiarizing yourself with SQL is essential when you get into this database play. So definitely worth your while to learn this stuff. And you know, there's also a lot of tricks involved for you know, you can add records to your tables. You can actually control the data that's inside. You can update it and things like that. Also delete records. You can also do these same things pulling into forms on a web page. So it's pretty neat what you can do once you have information in a database available to you. So anyway, I hope this was useful to you. If you want to see more videos like this or related to MySQL, you know, leave me a message or something and let me know that this was helpful. If not, no big deal. I will catch you all later, and I wish you luck on your projects. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.